Hello everyone and welcome to Chess with M&M. Today we will see so beautiful game happened in 1963 between one of the most greatest chess players ever, Bobby Fischer, and Robert Byrne. And in this game we will see how Fischer had two deep calculating skills, and we will see why Fischer was two different player in the chess history. So without wasting any time, let's get started. Robert Byrne with the white piece and Fischer with the black pieces. Robert Byrne opening the game by d4. Queen pawn opening by Robert Byrne. Knight to f6 by Fischer. c4, g6, g3 and c6. And here we're seeing Fischer going to the King's Indian defense against the queen pawn opening. So after c6 by Fischer, preparing to pushing e5, d5, bishop to g2 by Robert Byrne, and d5 by Fischer, hitting the center, and c capture on d5 by Robert Byrne. Now here Fischer commented on this move, c capture on d5, and he said, I prefer queen to b3. The idea by queen to b3 is putting a pressure on the pawn on the b7, and also putting a pressure on the pawn on the d4, on the d5, sorry, with the pawn and the bishop. But here Robert Byrne just played c capture on d5, and he said, no, I want to playing a basic game against Fischer. And Fischer said, okay, c capture on d5, c capture on d5 by Fischer, and knight to c3 by Robert Byrne, developing his knight and putting a pressure on the pawn on the d5, bishop to g7 by Fischer, preparing to castling, e3 by Robert Byrne, and castling by Fischer. Knight g2 e2 by Robert Byrne, not knight to f3. He wants to keep this diagonal open for his bishop on the g2, and also he wants to play knight to f4 to put a nice pressure on the pawn on the d5. But here Fischer just played knight to c6. Knight to c6, if you played something like knight to f4, I always have e3 to guarding this pawn, so there is nothing to worry about. So after knight to c6, castling by Robert Byrne, and b6 by Fischer. The idea by b6, I want to play bishop to a6 and develop my bishop on the a6 h1 f1 diagonal. And the same idea by Robert Byrne. He played b3. b3, I want to play bishop to a3 to develop my bishop too. Bishop to a6 by Fischer, bishop to a3 by Robert Byrne, and here Fischer played rook to e8. Rook to e8, he preparing to pushing e7, e5, and making some difference in the position. Because here, if we're looking to this, if we're looking to the board, we'll see the position is so symmetrical, and this probably will lead to draw. So for this season here, Fischer played rook to e8. He want to push e7, e5, and making some difference in the position. So after rook to e8, here Robert Byrne just played queen to d2, and e5 by Fischer. Now e5 and on this move, on e5 move here, Fischer commented, and he said, I was a bit worried about weakening my queen pawn, and he mean his pawn on the d5, because e5 push, we because after e5 now we don't have any c our e5 our e pawn to guarding this pawn on the d5, so technically pushing e5, weakening the pawn on the d5. But also here Fischer said, but felt that the tremendous activity obtained by my minor pieces would permit white no time to exploit it. Now Fischer's idea is, okay, I will play e5, I will weaken my pawn on the d5, but after d capture e5, knight capture on d5, I will open my the rook the fire for my rook, and also I will activate my my knight on the center. So okay, I will weaken the pawn, but also I will activate my pieces. So this is the Fischer's idea. So after knight capture on e5 by Fischer, here Robert Byrne just played rook f to d1. Now here you cannot capture the pawn on the d5, example knight capture on d5, because here Fischer has a knight capture on d5, and after bishop capture on d5, then here the black here has so strong move, and it is knight to f3 check. Knight to f3 check, making 4 between the king and the queen, so you have to capture the knight. Bishop capture on f3, and then after bishop capture on f3 you will lose your queen by the blackest queen. And even here, example, if you after knight capture on d5, if you capture by the queen capture on d5, then here the black has queen capture d5, bishop capture on d5, and the white will lose his knight on the e2. So after knight capture on e5, you cannot take the pawn on the d5. So here Robert Byrne just played rook f to d1, putting a lot of pressure on the pawn on the d5. After rook f to d1, here here Fischer played a beautiful move, and it is knight to d3. Now, what the idea by knight to d3? We will see now. Here, maybe you're thinking the idea is just closing the file in front this queen and in front the queen and the rook. But here, after knight to d3 and queen to c2 by Robert BYRNE, the idea by queen to c2 is threatening the knight, because you cannot capture the knight because it gets protected by the bishop on the a6. So the idea by queen to c3, it's changing the rook for the bishop and the knight. So queen to c2. Here Robert BYRNE waiting from Fischer, moving his knight away. Example, knight to c5, moving away from the threat. And example, after something like knight to c5, here the white will capture the pawn on the d5 and and he will be up a pawn. So this is what was Robert BYRNE waiting. But here the brilliant move in this game comes. Here I want you to pause the video and try to find the move which Robert James Fischer played in this position. Now, if you found the move, congratulations, actually, you are so good player. And if you didn't find the move, no problem, because it's too hard move to find, and this move needs so deep calculating skills. Now, the move is knight capture on f2. Knight capture on f2, it's unbelievable and unexpected move by Fischer. Now, what's the idea by knight capture on f2? The idea here, after king capture on f2, and this is what happened in the game, here Fischer played knight to g4 check. Knight to g4 check, making fork between the king and the pawn on the e3. King back to g1 by Robert BYRNE, and knight capture on e3 by Fischer, making fork between the queen and the rook, and queen to d2 by Robert BYRNE. And here Robert BYRNE commented on this moment, and he said, as I sat pondering why Fischer would choose such a line, because it was obviously lost for black. And he mean the line of knight capture on d1, because here any normal player will play knight capture on d1 in the next move. And after rook capture on d1, okay, now the black has a rook for 2 pawns, but this pawn on the d5 is so weak, and you will lose this pawn in the next move. Example, rook to c8, knight capture on d5, knight capture on d5, and then I will develop my other knight on the f4, and I will have so strong knights on the f4 and d5 squares, and I have so nice bishops and so powerful pressure on the d file. So technically this position is so bad for the black. But here the idea is, but the surprise is, here Fischer didn't capture the rook on the d1, knight capture on d1, and he played knight capture on g2. Another unexpected move by Fischer. And on this move, knight capture on g2, Robert BYRNE commented, and he said, this dazzling move came as the shocker. And he mean knight capture on g2. And he said, the culminating combination is of such depth that even at the very moment at which I resigned, both grandmasters who were commenting on the play for the spectators in a separate room believed I had a won game. Just imagine this. Even Robert BYRNE and the grandmasters, which was commenting on the game, they believed that Robert BYRNE had a won game. But here, after knight capture on g2 and king capture on g2 by BYRNE, Fischer played d4. d4, the idea is threatening the knight on the c3. You cannot move your knight to anywhere. Example here, if you move your knight to a4, alright, knight to a4, then you will lose your knight on the e2, and then your queen after rook capture, queen capture, bishop capture, threatening the rook, and also having so strong passed pawn on the d file. And so after d4 you cannot move your knight, and also I'm threatening your knight, so you have to do something here. And the only move here, capturing the pawn, knight capture on d4. But after knight capture on d4, here Fischer played bishop to b7 check, and after king to f1, here Fischer played queen to d7, and believe it or not, in the move 21, in this position, Robert BYRNE resigned the game. Now, maybe you're asking why Robert BYRNE resigned the game, because basically here I'm threatening Fischer here threatening queen to h3 check and checkmate. Example here, if the white played anything like rook a to c1. All right. Then the black here will play queen to h3. Queen to h3 check. Now if the king goes to the f2, then queen to g2 will be a checkmate. And if the king goes to the g1, then there is bishop to d4 check. Bishop to d4 check. Now the king has no squares to move, so you have to capture the bishop. Queen capture on d4, and then queen to g2 will be a checkmate. And even here, example, if you didn't play anything like rook to a6, and here played something like king to g1, all right, not although queen to h3 to come with a check on the king. Here the black will play queen to h3, and after knight back to c2, moving the knight away from the thread. Because after queen to h3, the black will threatening queen capture on d4, and then queen to g2 checkmate. So knight to c2, moving away from the thread. But here the black just can capture the knight on the c3, bishop capture on c3, threatening the queen and the rook. You cannot capture the bishop because your queen has to keep an eye on the g2 square. So you cannot capture the bishop, and I'm threatening the queen. So example, if you play something like queen to f2 to keeping eye on the g2 square, then there is bishop capture on a2, on a1, sorry, and after rook capture on a1 and rook a to d8. If you're looking to this position, it's such losing for the white. The black here has monsters on the e and the d files, and also the white is down an exchange, and he down one pawn also. So and if you playing this position against Bobby Fischer, you are you just lost the game. So here after queen to d7, in this position, Robert BYRNE just resigned the game. So hope you enjoyed the video and learn from it. Please don't forget us by the like and subscribe, and see you in the next video.